Okay, so the guys at Beer 52 have asked us to answer some questions.
So, question time.
Colin, would you like to answer that first?
I really struggled with this question.
I think that's really what stands out for the craft beer industry for me, is that breaking the mold, bringing new innovations to the market, new beers, new styles, and using some of the best ingredients, be it malt and really good water as well in Ireland for brewing new styles of beer that kind of breaks through the traditional Irish beer scene.
We're just better crack. We're just better crack. You wouldn't see some of the fucking silly shit you see in other countries going on in Ireland. Like nobody's gonna queue up with a fucking deck chair to wait for a beer or something like that. Like even at a beer festival, it doesn't matter who the brewery is. Like people don't queue. You don't queue for a bar over here. Like nobody gives a shit. Like
For me, I spent most of my brewing career outside of Ireland. I worked in Australia, I worked in London, worked in Scotland. So it was great to finally come back and work in the beer industry in Ireland. And the big thing is the sense of community. I think Ireland generally has a great sense of community. It's a bunch of small towns and then one big city. So it's great to see people very close, work together, have fun together, have a beer together when you can. But also in the last couple of years, it's become really innovative. Like you really have seen people move away from blonde ales and from just stouts, even though we're drinking one now.
Well, I think the Irish craft beer scene has come on leaps and bounds in the last 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, when we started 6 years ago, we had 3 beers. Now we've done over 200, I think. And the customers are getting more and more in line or in tune with what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's not just a pale ale, a red ale, and a stout anymore. It's like milkshake beers, tropical pale ales, sour beers.
Definitely it's a great community. Some great breweries brewing some great beer. But what I think is truly unique is the opportunity to have great craft beer in an Irish pub, close to the brewery where it was made. I think there's something really, really good about the Irish pub culture that is not replicated. It's copied, but not the same. I guess so. I think the best place that you can taste any craft beer, but especially an Irish craft beer, is in an Irish pub in Ireland, and I think that's what makes our scene, unequaled.
The beer is just part of your night and your enjoyment and just spending it with friends and stuff like that, and that's still alive and well in Ireland, and that's why we reckon that it's the best, because you can have some phenomenally good beer when you come to Ireland. But it's not the most important part of your night, nor should it be. It's about hanging out with your pals. That's very important.
I would probably controversially argue that it's not the best. It could be the best, but unfortunately on both jurisdictions on this island, our licensing laws are inadequate to promote small breweries. Here in Northern Ireland we can't sell directly to the public at all. So we've been campaigning since before the brewery started. So we started in 2016. We've been campaigning since 2015 to try and change the licensing legislation. We're lobbying very hard to add an amendment to allow us to operate tap rooms. We've got a great space here in Belfast, but we have to borrow a pub license every time we want to run an event. And they're trying to shut that down as well, so we want to be able to run events without having to do that.
I think that there are some world-class breweries in Ireland in the north and the south, some of which you're enjoying tonight. But I do think both markets, they are very different from each other, the north and the southern market, but both markets are very young, really, when it comes to craft beer. Even more so than the rest of the UK, than GB, and certainly more so than America, for example. So we have a lot to learn.
I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to take it in the context of scenes. So the Irish craft scene is better than the Irish macro scene, it's better than the Irish nuclear energy scene, it's better than the Irish stand-up comedy scene. It is the best scene to be in if you like drinking or eating, but particularly drinking. It's got lots of really good beer, I'm going to guess. People, it's got people.
The people.
It's got people.
Definitely me.
Yeah. No, the people are great. The craft is great.
It's like being in a small city. We all help each other out. We all know the same struggles.
There was a bunch of us who knew each other before we all went pro. And we're now either founders of breweries or, you know, senior management or head brewers or something like that. And it's been really cool to have a group of friends that we knew each other before we opened breweries, and to grow in that friendship and to grow in the businesses together more or less at the same time. And more or less now, actually at this stage, to a similar size and volume. It's been great just having that relationships and friendships with people before the brewery world's opened up for us. And we wouldn't have had that, I think, if the world wasn't so small in the Irish beer scene. So that's why I think it's so great.
What makes the Irish craft beer scene the best is the people that you encounter, the people that I know and work with and share beers and experiences with here. They sort of represent the best of what I would say it is to be Irish, or the characteristics of Irish people.